Hey guys, I realize I haven't done a macro talk in a little while, so I thought I would go over that. Uh, this is always a tricky one to do because it would really depend on you personally how I'd set this up or how I would describe this. But for losing weight, um, basically if you stay under your caloric intake, and yes, with ketogenic, you don't really need to worry about that as much because you're trying to reteach your body to sync back to its normal way. Because, how did we live, 100 years ago before we had food measurement scales and the idea of weight loss and everything? Is you didn't have to use all the macros. So it depends on what kind of diet you want to, how you want to be living, what kind of lifestyle you want. If you like measuring everything, you're going to do it a different way. If you don't like measuring everything, you're going to do it a different way. If you like a combination, if you want to weigh yourself on the scale, different things like that, it's what you need to do about macros. Because whenever I do this talk, people freak out because they're like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this all wrong, or I need to switch. No, you don't. No, you don't. You can do exactly what you've been doing. It doesn't matter. But if you stall or you're having troubles or you're not feeling optimal health, you may want to change these things. So let's kind of get into it. So there's basically I almost actually like to break things up into several different groups. So the biggest one though is the main ones are protein, then there's fats, and then there's carbs. But I also like to know exactly how much sugar I'm taking because I think that's different. And then how many starchy things. Because I think net carbs are important, but a lot of times I want to know how many sugar alcohols or sugars I'm adding, because the more sugar I do, the more I want it. So even if you're doing I don't know, let's say you're doing a coffee every day, but you're adding 3 things of Splenda into that. Eventually that's going to catch up to you, or you're used to that sugary taste that it could actually make you want sugar more. So a lot of times I like to keep that in check, because if I'm starting to have a lot of cravings, I'm like, why am I having so many cravings? Why do I want chocolate so bad or something? If I look back into my log of how much sugar I've been having or sugar substitute, I realize I've usually been having quite a bit of sugar again. I'm like, oh, we got to cut that down. And at first you go through the withdrawals but I want sugar. But then I get used to not having it again and I feel fine. So it's different for everyone. So let's address this to how you might want to break this down. Basically, in a ketogenic diet, you want to keep your fats fairly high. And the reason it's not because people usually think it's oh, fat is the key. That's what's going on. It's fat. It's fat. It's a high fat diet. No, it's because if you're not getting your calories from carbs, you've got to get them from something else. So we generally move towards fat. And then there's also protein. So there's several different things, and I'm going to get swamped on this one, but that's okay. Just if you want to learn from me macros, then listen to me. If you don't like what I'm sharing, there's plenty of other videos out there. That's fine. This is what worked for me. I am into research. I've done a lot. I actually work with a doctor who is specifically into ketogenic diets and puts people on them for cancer and health issues. So I didn't go about this willy-nilly. I'm actually got started in everything through a doctor who I first got weighed on a full body scale to tell me exactly how much fat, how much muscle, and how much water I was carrying. So there's a big difference. And I went in every single week to go over my food log, and every single week to get measured and to be weighed. So I couldn't get around it. Whatever I was doing, we were constantly making corrections on. So what I'm coming from is actually more of a doctor-based approach to ketogenic dieting rather than what I found off the internet or decided to do because I wanted to eat bacon every day, So there's different people you're listening to. I wanted to do this for my health, and I wanted to know what was healthy, and if I'm not feeling at my optimal level, I want to keep performing because that's who I am. I'm an athlete and I want to do better. And I noticed certain things I ate gave me more energy, and certain things I didn't eat were flip-flopping and changing that. So what do we do about this? Now, for those of you who do not want to measure, you just want to eat. Usually, especially when you're starting, if you eat in the list of ketogenic foods, but you're just portion controlling, like, you don't want to do more than about, estimating like a handful of berries. Whatever you can fit in your hand is what you can eat, but you can only do that one time per day. Dairy, maybe you only do one serving per day, just so you have an idea of measurement. So you can write that down basically as a journal or a food log. So you have an idea of what you're doing so that you can look back at something. You can track it just like you would a budget or your finances. You want to know where you're spending your food allowance. So that's how I like to look at things. It makes more sense to me that way. So anyways, with that, that's how you want to do that. If you're a person, I don't want to weigh things. I don't want to have to check the scales. I don't want to have to do any of that. That is perfectly fine. Just understand about how many fats you need, how much protein you need, or you might have to weigh things in the beginning a little bit, but you can get to the point where you're losing weight and things work great for you. And you can just alter by, like, if you feel like you're gaining a little weight, then you just need to realize, cut back on the fruit a little bit, or do fruit every other day, or, whatever. But you can live comfortably that way. There are people who need to track everything, and they want to know exactly what macros they need to hit. The thing is, though, no one ever ate the exact same amounts of food or did the exact amount of exercise every day. So our needs are different and our bodies tell us different things. But if you're a person who needs to see those macros and written down, what you need to do is you need to figure out your protein. That is the biggest thing you can do. How much protein do you need per day? And on a ketogenic diet, you can do, it's not high protein, but you can do a little bit more protein, or you can do a little bit less, and then you're going to fill the gaps with fat. So for protein is, I think it's like 0.1 gram or something to multiplied by your body fat percentage. I don't know. You can look it up. I can try and do that too. But basically, you want to figure out how much protein you need on a ketogenic diet for your body. Some people, it tells you grams, from this grams to this grams is about how much you need. I actually have it saved in my phone somewhere. I'll try and maybe put that up. But you want to get your protein figured out for your body weight for weight loss. After that, then you pretty much are going to you're going to only do about 20 some grams of carbohydrates. So that's, it averages out to be like 100 calories to maybe 200 calories of carbs, probably somewhere in that range. Well, the rest of your gap, whatever you need to meet your caloric intake, is going to be filled with fat. It's really that easy. It's just a puzzle. You just fill in those gaps. You want it to be at 100%. So you're taking the percentage of protein, a percentage of fats, and a percentage of carbohydrates. So protein and carbs are pretty easy. Once you figure that out, you fill the rest with fat. Here's the thing, though, is I find, for me, I do better with higher protein. So that's what I do. I just feel better. And that's what I listen to. And there are people, you're more like me, who goes into health-related things, or things can be more inflammatory, things that you have more allergies to. Not that these things are bad. All these things are good. You don't have to worry about it. But things that people are more sensitive to are more like the nightshades, leafy greens, onions, things like that, as well as another allergy is dairy and seafood for some, and then what's the other one I was going to say? Did I say dairy? Dairy and nuts. I don't know if I mentioned those. But those are things. The thing about dairy, guys, if you're starting and you are excited that you could eat dairy, don't worry about it. This is for the people who want this information. I'm not saying everyone has to eat this way. Eat what works for you. Some of us find dairy is inflammatory, especially if you're diabetic. This can be something for you, as well as those of you who have higher cholesterol. Limiting that dairy can sometimes do it. The processed foods, because dairy is still processed, and so are like the deli meats, things like that. Even bacon, it's still processed. It's still processed, no matter what you want to do. I eat bacon. I'm not saying not to. I'm just saying it's processed. You want to eat those in limited quantities. If you're trying to do it for certain health benefits, or you're not feeling quite good and you can't figure out what's going on. So for me, because I needed to get the inflammation out of my body, I did an inflammation type of keto dieting, and also to get a grip on food and portion control. So I needed to limit dairy to, I pretty much did none to very, very, very little, maybe 1 ounce per day. And then I cut out nuts altogether. I could just binge eat nuts till the end of time, or nut butters. Oh my gosh, there is no stopping point. I love peanut butter. I'm like a peanut butter hoarder. Like, I have so many varieties of peanut butter, or nut butters, I guess I should say, that it's almost funny because I love peanut butter that much. I could eat peanut butter every day at every meal, and I could just eat it to my heart's content. That's just how much I enjoy it. Everyone is a little different. But for inflammation, there's certain things that are more inflammatory. And also, what I want to mention about dairy is lactose. But what people have trouble in it is you lack the enzyme to break down the carbohydrate content, or the sugars in dairy. That's how the cultures are made, is they're actually breaking down the sugars. Some people don't have trouble with dairy. Others of us do. It just depends on you. So I feel better when I'm not on dairy. That's really why I made that decision. Same thing with caffeine. If you have trouble with your blood sugar dropping all the time, it could be caffeine for you. Or I am a high anxiety, anxious, but I'm naturally high energy. I don't really need the caffeine. It tends to drop me rather than elevate me. So I'm careful with caffeine, or how I do it. The other thing, I said nuts. And then sugars is the more sugars I do. So fat bombs, chocolates, the more I do like that, the more I want it. That's all. So I just don't do it. If I could have fat bombs every day, believe me, I would do it. But then that's all I would eat. And that's not really healthy for me, because I don't feel optimal. It's not that those things aren't healthy, or if they're working for you that you need to stop doing them. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that doesn't work for me particularly. So it's a puzzle, guys. It's figuring it out. It's filling in your blanks. What's working, what's not. Make minor, small adjustments each week. Eliminating some things. See how you feel. If you think dairy could be bugging you, if you don't feel good, cut out one thing per week. That's what I did. Or cut it all out and add one thing back at a time. That's another approach. It's however you feel like doing it. But that's how you figure out your macros on a ketogenic diet. I started out with the average. I did a moderate protein, high fat, low carb. I found I wasn't feeling as good. I felt hungry. So I messed with my macros a little bit. I thought, let's up the protein a little bit and let's lower the fat down a little bit. And suddenly I started feeling better. And I thought, okay, I feel better with higher protein. But I also work out a lot. I have a very active job, and I don't have a gallbladder in the way my health works. For some reason, I do better higher protein. I just feel better. That's all I can tell you. I personally feel better. And you might feel better eating more fat. It's all up to you guys. So if you want to measure out every little piece of food, you can do that if that makes you feel good. If you don't like that, don't do it. It's that simple, but macros is actually really simple. I hope that explains it for you guys. If you need more info on that, let me know. Put them in the comments below, and I will try and address that.